Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a fascinating, highly advanced civilization that is operating right beneath our feet. I'm talking about the ant colony. If you've ever walked past a little line of ants on the sidewalk and just thought, oh, they're just simple bugs wandering around, well, prepare to have your mind completely changed. Seriously, think about this for a second. How does a city of 1 million individuals operate flawlessly without a mayor, a boss, or even a single law? As we zoom in from just one tiny insect to the massive scale of an entire colony, we're going to uncover how these essentially blind entities follow incredibly simple rules to build complex, thriving megacities. We're going to look at exactly how they pull this off. All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, Meet the Superorganism. To really grasp what's going on here, we have to fundamentally change how we view an ant colony. You just can't look at an ant the same way you look at a solitary animal like, say, a bear or a hawk. Instead of a group of independent bugs, science actually defines the colony as a superorganism, and this is driven by this wild concept called eusociality. Basically, individual ants are much more like specialized cells making up one giant intelligent body. Just like your body has skin cells, blood cells, and muscle cells that all do their jobs without you consciously thinking about it, an ant colony has members that act as the stomach, the immune system, and the hands of a single unified entity. They share resources mouth to mouth. They raise their young cooperatively, and their entire existence is tied entirely to the survival of the whole.
Okay, moving right along to Section 2, the colony caste system.
So to function as one body, the colony relies on a very rigid, yet incredibly efficient division of labor. And this completely shatters the myth that the queen is somehow the boss. We always project human royalty onto ants, right? But she doesn't give orders at all. She is simply the reproductive engine of the colony, essentially its biological heart, just pumping out millions of eggs over a lifespan that can sometimes span decades. It's actually the female workers who make up the vast majority of the colony that run the entire city. They forage, they build, they defend. And the males, or drones, well, they have an extremely short lifespan. Their one and only purpose is to provide genetic diversity during a brief mating flight, and then they die. The female workers do absolutely everything else, dividing tasks up based on their age, their size, and whatever the colony immediately needs. Which brings us to Section 3, Decentralized and Governance. So if the queen isn't the CEO giving orders, how does a massive colony get anything done? How on earth do they coordinate a complex raid or build a perfectly climate-controlled nest if literally nobody is in charge? The answer is a brilliant contrast to how we do things. Look at human leadership. It's top-down. We rely on centralized managers who have a big picture vision and pass plans down the chain of command. Ant governance is the exact opposite. It's strictly bottom-up and completely decentralized. No single ant, and again, not even the queen, has the big picture. An individual ant can only perceive a few centimeters of space around it. Most of them are virtually blind. Instead of a blueprint, they rely entirely on localized rules and chemical signals called pheromones. The crucial takeaway here is how they use simple local rules and these chemical pheromones to solve crazy complex logistics. Just imagine a scout ant wandering around randomly until it finally finds a food source. It grabs a bite, heads back to the nest, and taps its abdomen on the ground to leave a chemical breadcrumb trail. Other foragers stumble onto this trail and just naturally follow it. When they find the food and head back, they add their own pheromones to the path. Now here's the absolute magic of it. If there are two different paths to the food, the shorter path obviously takes less time to travel. Because of that, ants returning on the shorter path lay down pheromones faster, which makes that chemical scent thicker, stronger, and more attractive. Without any map or any manager, the entire colony mathematically and naturally reinforces the absolute shortest route. And this decentralized logic scales up to some really mind-blowing extremes. Take army ants, for example. They can move more than 3,000 prey items an hour along a path that is just centimeters wide. If we humans tried this, it would be the worst traffic jam in history. But researchers found they naturally form perfect 3-lane highways. How? Well, again, no traffic cops. It all boils down to a super simple local rule. When two ants bump into each other head-on, the ant carrying a heavy load of food absolutely refuses to swerve. The ant carrying nothing, however, is highly willing to swerve. Because of that one tiny behavioral quirk, the loaded ants naturally plow straight down the middle lane, pushing all the empty ants to the two outer margins. Boom, the traffic sorts itself perfectly. This localized matrix allows them to literally become the physical infrastructure of their own cities. Think about this. When a foraging trail has little dips or holes that are slowing down traffic, specific workers will step in and wedge themselves into the gaps. They literally size match their own bodies to the pothole so that traffic can just run smoothly right over their backs. They also build living bridges by linking their legs together across gaps. And these bridges will actually drift and slide sideways to cut corners and shorten the commute. But, and this is wild, they stop sliding precisely at the point where the benefit of a shorter trip is outweighed by the cost of tying up too many workers in the bridge itself. They are calculating complex cost-benefit ratios based purely on local tactile feedback. No single ant is doing the math.
Let's dive into Section 4, Amazing Survival Behaviors.
Let's zoom out a bit and look at how this superorganism algorithm shows up in extreme environments. The places they live have pushed these behaviors to absolute limits. Take leafcutter ants. These guys are the undisputed weightlifting champions of the forest. The workers can carry leaf pieces that are 50 times their own body weight. To put that into perspective for us, that's like a human being carrying a full-grown hippopotamus over their head, using only their teeth and walking for miles. It's just absurd. But what makes them truly amazing isn't even their strength. It's the fact that they don't actually eat the leaves they spend their entire lives cutting. These ants are highly polymorphic, meaning they come in vastly different shapes and sizes to do specific jobs. And they are actually farmers. They chew those leaves up into a mulch to cultivate these massive underground fungus gardens, which is their actual food source. They're so advanced, they even wear a rare biomineral armor made of calcite to protect themselves in battle and ward off fungal infections. And because any crop is vulnerable to disease, these ants act as literal pharmacists. They carry antibiotic-producing bacteria right on their own bodies to weed out dangerous microbes from their fungus gardens. Oh, and they build nests so massive that an adult human could comfortably stand up inside their central chamber. Next up, consider the terrifying scale of the army ant. A single colony can operate as a massive migratory superorganism containing, get this, up to 700,000 completely blind workers. Unlike the leafcutters, army ants don't bother building permanent underground nests. Because they hunt so aggressively, they just quickly deplete all the food in one area anyway. So they migrate. To sleep, they construct temporary camps called bivouacs, and they make these entirely out of their own linked bodies, safely sheltering the queen and the larvae inside this massive, breathing ball of living insects. Then, when the sun comes up, they launch these aggressive, leaderless raids that just blanket the forest floor, advancing at a steady pace of a foot per minute. Working together, they overwhelm spiders, scorpions, and even injured large mammals that just can't get out of their path in time. Finally, let's look at a species that has solved the problem of starvation in extreme climates. To survive in harsh, totally barren deserts, honeypot ants rely on specialized workers called repletes. Instead of building a physical structure to store food, the ants themselves become the storage containers. When food is plentiful, workers feed these repletes excess nectar. The repletes then hang upside down from the ceiling of the nest, and their abdomens, which have incredibly thin, flexible walls, just expand to massive volumes. They look like literal grapes made of honey. Then, when a severe drought hits, these living pantries just regurgitate the stored food to keep the entire superorganism alive. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I really hope this has completely shattered your perception of the humble ant. We've seen how they manage complex traffic logistics, practice agriculture and pharmacology, build bridges out of their own bodies, and function flawlessly with zero centralized management. I want to leave you with this final thought. The next time you see a tiny little ant scurrying across the sidewalk, ask yourself, are you really just looking at a simple bug? Or are you witnessing a single brilliant cell of an ancient alien superorganism? Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into the massive decentralized societies thriving right beneath our feet. Keep observing and keep learning.